edges of the world are slowly blurring, and I am standing exactly where the path used to be. But there is no path now, only a vast and unending gray that seems to stretch into forever. The air is cold, but it is a dry and hollow cold. It does not bite. It simply swallows everything it touches. I looked at my watch a moment ago, and the second hand was moving backward, slowly and deliberately. It feels as if the day itself is being unmade. And when I tried to speak, the words felt like heavy stones in my mouth. I stopped walking for a moment and noticed that there is no wind, yet I feel a constant chill against my skin. It feels like a phantom pressure, like a cold finger slowly tracing the line of my jaw in the darkness. When I turned around, the space behind me was gone. The path and the trees have all been quietly erased. Now there is only the hum, a low vibration that feels like it is coming from deep within the earth. Or perhaps from inside my own skull. It sounds like a choir singing a single broken note over and over until it is the only thing I can hear. The hum is getting louder now, and I can feel it vibrating deep within my teeth, like a cold wire being pulled tight. I reached out my hand to touch the air, but it did not feel like air anymore. It felt solid and smooth, like cold glass pressing back against me. I realized then that I am not walking in an open field. I am walking inside a cage that I simply cannot see. A prison made of silence and gray light. I looked down at my feet and saw that my shadow is missing, as if the ground itself has forgotten that I am still standing here. A sudden urge to scream washed over me, not out of anger, but just to hear a single human sound before the world disappears completely. I opened my mouth to shout, but no sound came out. Only a thin and gray mist that drifted from my lips and merged with the air. I watched it go, and I realized that I am slowly becoming part of the fog, losing the boundary between my body and the void. I looked at my hands again, and the skin is starting to look translucent, like thin paper held up against a dying light. I can see the faint outline of bone beneath the surface, but there are no veins, and there is no blood, just a white and silent structure. I try to run, but the faster I move, the more the ground feels like static, like walking on a television screen that has lost its signal. I stopped running because I realized there is no point. The horizon stays exactly where it was, no matter how far I travel. I looked down at my chest and saw the static flickering there too. Small gray sparks like an old film that is beginning to tear at the edges. I'm not sure if I am a person anymore, or if I am just a lingering thought trapped inside an empty and forgotten room. I reached out one last time, and my hand passed through what felt like a solid wall of nothing, vibrating with 1,000 tiny needles. And then, without any warning at all, the hum stopped, leaving a silence so absolute that it feels like it is crushing my ribs. The silence is no longer quiet. It has a texture now, like the heavy weight of velvet being pressed against my eyes. I tried to blink, but there is no difference between open and shut. The gray has filled every gap in my vision. I felt something soft brush against the shell of my ear. It wasn't a whisper. It was a vibration, as if the darkness was trying to breathe. I don't want to know its name, and I don't want to know what comes next. But I can feel the space around me beginning to shrink. It is a slow and patient pressure, and I realize now that the void isn't empty. It is simply waiting for me to stop resisting. The walls of this place, if they can even be called walls, are moving closer with every breath I take. I can hear a sound now, a soft scraping against the edge of my perception, like fingernails dragging across dry paper. It is coming from every direction at once, a rhythmic and patient scratching that seems to be searching for a way in. I tried to move my arms, but they felt heavy and sluggish, as if the air has turned into thick, black ink. I am no longer sure where my body ends and where the darkness begins. We are bleeding into one another, cell by cell. The scratching has changed its rhythm. It is no longer searching. It sounds like it has found what it was looking for. I can feel a strange warmth spreading through my limbs, a stark contrast to the hollow cold that has defined this place. It is a sickly, pulsing heat, as if the darkness itself has a heartbeat, and I am being pulled into its pulse. I tried to remember my name, to cling to the person I was before the path disappeared. But the memory is like water slipping through my fingers. Every thought I have is being replaced by the hum, which has returned, not as a sound, but as a command. It is telling me to let go, to stop trying to be a shape, and to simply become the shadow. The command is not a voice. It is a feeling of weightlessness, as if my bones have finally turned into smoke. I can see them now, the shapes moving in the periphery of the gray, shadows that are darker than the void itself. They do not have faces, but I can feel their gaze. A cold and ancient curiosity that strips away the last of my resolve. They are leaning in close, and for the first time, I realize that I am not alone in this silence. I am simply the newest addition. The warmth I felt earlier is turning into a sharp sting as the static begins to knit itself into my skin, sewing me into the fabric of this place. I am no longer a visitor on a path. I am a permanent part of the landscape. The gray is no longer around me. It is inside me, filling my lungs with every shallow breath I try to take. I can feel the presence of the others now. 1,000 silent witnesses standing just beyond the edge of my vision. They do not speak, but I can hear their thoughts. A low chorus of whispers that sound like dry leaves skittering across stone. They are welcoming me, not with kindness, but with the cold recognition of those who have already been forgotten. I tried to reach for the memory of the sun, for the warmth of a house, or the sound of a familiar voice. But those things belong to a world that no longer exists for me. There is only the gray, the hum, and the slow, inevitable transformation into something that has no name. The transition is almost complete now, and the weight of my own body has become a distant, fading memory. I can feel my consciousness expanding, stretching out to touch the boundaries of this gray dimension. I am the mist that clings to the ground, and I am the vibration that hums within the void. The scratching sound has stopped, because there is no longer a barrier between the outside and the inside. I looked up, or where I think up used to be, and saw a single, flickering light, far away, like a star dying in a forgotten sky. It is the last piece of the world one knew, and as I watch it, I feel nothing but a cold, hollow piece as it finally blinks out. The darkness is complete, but for the first time, I am not afraid. Fear requires a heart to beat faster, and mine has finally stilled, settling into the rhythm of the eternal hum. I am no longer the man on the path. I am the path itself. A silent stretch of nothingness waiting for the next soul to lose its way. I can feel a new presence now, far off in the distance. Someone else is standing where the edges are beginning to blur. I can feel their confusion, their rising panic, the way they desperately search for a familiar landmark in the thickening gray. I want to warn them, to tell them to turn back before the world unspools around them. But I no longer have a voice that can be heard by the living. Instead, I simply watch them. A silent sentinel in a world that has no use for names or faces. I can feel their heart racing, a frantic drumming that seems so loud and primitive in this perfect silence. I remember that feeling, the way the pulse thumps against the throat when the logic of the world begins to fail. I want to tell them to stop fighting, that the struggle only makes the transformation more painful. But I know they won't listen, because I didn't listen either when the whispers first started to call from the edges of the path. We are all the same in the end, just echoes of a life that was once lived in the light. now slowly dissolving into the static. The new arrival has stopped running now. I can feel their exhaustion, a heavy blanket of defeat that settles over their shoulders. They're looking directly at me, or at the space where I am standing, but they see only the endless, flickering gray. I am the shadow they think they saw out of the corner of their eye. The movement that wasn't really there. It is a strange mercy to be the one who waits instead of the one who is hunted, to be the stillness instead of the fear. I can feel the gray beginning to pull at them, the same way it pulled at me, unraveling the threads of their reality one by one. The cycle is beautiful in its cold, mechanical precision, a slow grinding of souls into the dust of the void. The hum has become a lullaby now, a steady, rhythmic pulse that promises an end to all questions. I can feel the other person's thoughts starting to fray, their memories of home becoming as thin and transparent as the mist. Soon they will stop looking for the path, and they will begin to look for me, seeking any form of company in this vast, hollow world. But I am already gone. I am the silence that follows their heartbeat, the emptiness that fills the space they used to occupy. There is no more before, and there is no more after. There is only this singular, unchanging moment of becoming nothing. The world above is a dream I once had, a feverish hallucination of light and sound that has finally, mercifully, broken. The last thread has snapped. I am no longer waiting, because there is no longer a me to wait. The gray has finished its work, and the transformation is complete. If you are listening to this, if you can still hear the sound of a voice, then you are still on the path. But look closely at the edges of your vision. Notice the way the light seems a little thinner today. Notice the hum that you thought was just the wind. Do not run. It only makes the air feel colder. Just close your eyes and let the static take you too.